I still can't open a window at night without feeling like someone is watching me. This happened in April 2024, and for a long time I downplayed it in my own head. I told myself it wasn't that big a deal. But every time I've shared the story with friends or family, their horrified reactions made me realize how deeply it had affected me. Even now, I feel uneasy living alone, and I wanted to finally get it off my chest. Let me explain the apartment layout so you can picture it clearly. The complex had multiple two-story buildings. Two of them faced each other directly, with only a small median and about 5 yards of space separating them. My apartment was on the second floor, and another tenant's apartment was directly across from mine, so our front doors stared straight at each other. My unit sat right at the top of the shared staircase that everyone used to reach the second-floor apartments. The same was true for the apartment across from me. I was a 20-year-old woman living alone in a one-bedroom apartment for about a year and a half. Because I lived in a very dry part of Texas with only a low-quality swamp cooler, I almost always kept the large living room window cracked open about an inch, with the blinds mostly closed, just to get some airflow. My cat loved sitting on his small cat tree and looking outside, so I kept that little gap for him too. One night, my boyfriend, let's call him Tristan, came over. We were smoking weed, something we did regularly, and watching a murder mystery documentary on YouTube. The bedroom window was also open a crack, but the blinds were fully down so no one could see inside. Everything felt normal until my cat suddenly started growling, a deep, low sound I had never heard from him before. He began pacing anxiously between the living room and bedroom with his tail puffed up like a bottle brush. I had only had the cat for a little over a month, so Tristan tried to reassure me that I was still learning his behaviors. Still, it unsettled me. About 30 minutes later, the cat had calmed down slightly, but I was still on edge. I got up to grab a drink from the fridge, which sat just a couple of feet in front of the big living room window. As I opened the fridge door, a paranoid thought flashed through my mind. Wouldn't it be creepy if you looked over and saw a face in the window? I glanced over, half to prove to myself nothing was there. A man's face was staring straight at me through the gap. He was positioned perfectly on the stairs outside, his eyes lined up exactly with the opening I had left. For a frozen second, we locked eyes. I slammed the fridge shut and sprinted to the bedroom to get Tristan. In those few seconds, I saw the man quickly moving down the stairs, trying to escape. Tristan immediately ran into the living room, yanked the blinds all the way up, and spotted the man. The intruder hurried back up the stairs for a moment before turning and running away again. Tristan went outside to make sure he was really gone, then came back in, closed the window completely, and pulled the blinds shut. I completely broke down in panic. He tried his best to calm me. I had to switch the documentary to something light and funny because I couldn't stop crying. Then I started hearing strange noises coming from my bedroom window. Tristan closed that one too and looked outside, but he said he didn't see anyone. I still heard the sounds for a few more minutes before they finally stopped. My sister told me to call the police, but I didn't that night. I regret that decision. The next day, I worked a morning shift and got home around 4 or 5 p.m. I felt guilty that my cat had been stuck inside with no window time, so I decided to open the windows again until sunset. When I went to open the bedroom window, a wave of nausea hit me. The screen was gone. Someone had removed it. I ran outside to search for it on the ground, desperately hoping the wind had blown it off. It wasn't there. I clearly remembered the screen being in place the night before because I had opened both windows myself. I always checked the screens for bugs, so I knew it had been secure. I immediately called Tristan and my sister. They both insisted I call the police, and this time I did. While waiting, Tristan went to the apartment directly across from mine because they had a Ring camera. We hoped it had caught the man removing the screen. The footage showed the man, but not stealing the screen. Instead, it captured him the night before, standing in front of the neighbor's door, trying to look into my apartment. According to the timestamp, he had first tried from the other building's stairs and balcony. When that wasn't enough, he crossed over and used my building's stairs to get a better view through my living room window. When the police arrived, I told them everything and showed them the video. They said there wasn't much they could do beyond filing a report. They suggested I get my own doorbell camera and gave me the paperwork so I could ask the apartment management to replace the screen for free. Talking to management was awkward. The woman who had rented me the apartment acted completely shocked and claimed nothing like this had ever happened before. But the second manager immediately remembered and even reminded her, "Remember when Angie complained about him?" It turned out several tenants, including my neighbor with the camera, had dealt with this same man peeping into apartments. The neighbor had actually moved units because of him. I got my new screen installed for free, but the whole experience left me shaken. After that, I installed window locks, stopped living alone, and eventually moved out of the complex entirely. My cat has never made that deep growling sound again. I never saw the man again. But to this day, the memory of his face staring at me through my own window still gives me chills. I no longer feel truly comfortable with open windows at night, even in safe places. I still call it the scariest moment of my life. The day 4 men waited like predators in the bushes, ready for us to step out of the car. This happened around 2016 during my freshman year of university. A few friends and I decided it would be the perfect evening to drive just outside of town to a scenic viewpoint on a hill. It was a popular spot for both students and locals to watch the sunset. We were especially excited because we planned to hotbox our friend's car, get properly stoned, and enjoy the view. I live in a country where you have to stay alert at all times. Even though it was a university town, it had its fair share of robberies, muggings, stabbings, and occasional murders. You eventually get used to the reality of it as an adult, but when you're young and haven't personally faced serious crime, it's easy to feel invincible and brush off the risks. The hill spot had a reputation for occasional muggings and scary encounters over the years, but we didn't think twice about it. We pulled up while the sun still had about 30 to 45 minutes of daylight left. There were no other cars around, which made us happy. We didn't want anyone nearby while we smoked. We rolled up the windows, started passing the joint, cracked jokes, and laughed about surviving an intense week of classes. The vibe was relaxed and happy. I was in the passenger seat, gazing at the beautiful sunset and chatting with my best friend, when I casually turned my head to look out the right side window. That's when my blood ran cold. About 20 feet away, partially hidden in the bushes, 4 men were crouched down, staring directly at us. Their clothes were torn and dirty. They weren't moving. They weren't talking. They were just waiting, perfectly still, focused like lions stalking prey, clearly hoping we would open the doors and step out. The pure intensity in their eyes and the way they watched our every movement sent pure terror through me. I didn't hesitate for even a second. "There are guys in the bushes waiting for us." I shouted at my friend who was driving. "Drive. Go." He reacted instantly, slamming on the accelerator. The tires spun on the dirt road as we sped away. When we were no more than 50 meters down the road, I looked back and saw 2 of the men stepping out of the bushes onto the road, just standing there, staring at us as we drove off. We were all badly shaken by the time we got back to town. Everyone kept saying how grateful we were that we never got out of the car and that I had turned my head at exactly the right moment. The best case scenario was that they planned to mug us. To this day, I try not to think about the worst case possibilities. I recently recounted the story to one of the friends who was in the car that evening. He agreed completely. The looks on those men's faces and the reputation of desperate gangsters in our area left no doubt. They had evil intentions. That single moment taught me a terrifying lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous situations look peaceful right until the second you realize you're being hunted. I've never gone back to that viewpoint, and I never will. I was 24, broken, and thought I had escaped one toxic home, only to walk straight into a nightmare that nearly destroyed me. This happened in 2022. I was still fighting a brutal mental health battle and had spent my entire life being groomed to simply take over my father's house when he died. Any dreams of getting a degree, building a real career, or doing anything beyond grinding at factory jobs were dismissed as unnecessary. My father was in his 70s, aggressive, deeply liberal, and convinced that everyone else was stupid. He would befriend Republicans just to get high and bully them. If I ever stood up for myself, he called me a pussy. If he hadn't personally taught me something, he assumed I was too incompetent to figure it out. We had been fighting constantly. I was done with the put-downs and the control. I had been working factory jobs for years and knew I could afford to move out and finally become independent. Then I got a message from a girl I had dated briefly when I was younger, the first person I had ever dated. We had known each other for 12 years total, but had been disconnected for 8 of them. She said she was in the area, had just gotten out of a toxic relationship, and wanted to reconnect. I didn't realize how bad her situation truly was. We started spending time together. My father hated her instantly and refused to let her come around, but he wouldn't explain why. It was always because I said so. I was so exhausted by his toxicity that I pushed back harder. She seemed kind, reasonable, and empathetic, especially compared to the feud her family had with mine. Her brother had jumped me in high school years earlier. After days of fighting with my dad, he finally told me he wanted me gone. So I moved in with her and her family. They welcomed me with open arms. Her adoptive mother, stepfather, stepbrother, and bio father, who was supposedly an FBI agent, all painted my dad as manipulative and abusive. They claimed he was using me and even suggested he had been abusing my dog, who had come from a puppy mill and already showed signs of trauma. They seemed supportive and understanding. They also casually dropped strange stories that they had ties to organized crime, that the bio father was in the FBI, and that the whole family acted as his flying monkeys. Red flags were everywhere, but I was vulnerable, isolated, and felt like I had nowhere else to go. The door had closed behind me. Over the next 4 months, my girlfriend constantly stirred up drama. She would start fights between me and her adoptive mother, invent stories about things I had supposedly done or said, and make it seem like it was us against them. At the same time, I grew close to the stepfather. He cried in my arms when his uncle died, called me his son, and treated me like family. But the environment was toxic. Her actual son, a toxic ex of hers, came back into the picture, and the tension skyrocketed. One day she was clearly cheating. When I tried to leave, the family showed me a positive pregnancy test and warned me that if I walked away, her bio father would break my jaw, put me in concrete shoes, and drop me in the canal. I was trapped. They helped me get a job packing ice cream at a distribution center for a popular gas station chain. The money was decent, but mentally I was gone. I would sit in my car before every shift, laughing one moment, then screaming and crying the next. It felt like my body was filled with sand. I lasted only a month before I dropped and broke an expensive piece of equipment and got fired. After the breakup, the girlfriend ran off with her ex. I sat down with the family and we compared stories. They seemed to turn against her, disowned her, apologized to me, and let me stay a little longer. By then I had become an alcoholic, drinking myself blackout drunk every night just to survive the pain. When I finally moved back in with my father, things seemed to calm down for a while. Then, months later, The adoptive mother called me screaming, accusing me of telling people I had slept with her. That's when the full picture clicked. They had never actually disowned the girlfriend. She had been feeding them lies about me the entire time. By this point, I had done extensive research on manipulation, narcissism, and dark psychology. I finally saw how they had groomed and used me. I blocked all of them, changed my numbers, and locked down my profiles. I still have 27 different profiles blocked across 3 people on Facebook. It took me over a year of drinking myself toward death before I quit cold turkey. I got a better job, raised my credit score to 678, and paid off most of my debt. I started singing again, something she used to fake praise for, and no longer need anyone's validation. She had a baby shortly after we split. To this day, I don't know if it's mine, and I refuse to find out. I know the lengths she would go to for money or control. I omitted many other disturbing things they did. I now understand that real FBI agents and organized criminals don't casually tell people about it. But the fear remains. They know where I live, so I still look over my shoulder. I'm back living with my father. We still fight, but I understand him better now. I see how lost and naive I was. To the girlfriend and the entire family who turned my vulnerability into a nightmare. You showed me exactly how easy I was to manipulate. I survived you. I'm still healing, but I'm no longer the same broken person you preyed on. I still get chills thinking about the night 2 strangers in all black tried to trap us in a dark parking lot, and how close we came to never making it home. When I was younger, my friends and I would often go to this specific baseball field parking lot to hotbox our cars. It was a known spot among locals, but it stayed pretty low-key. The lot sat behind an old baseball diamond surrounded by warehouses that shut down after dark. The road leading up to it was narrow and curvy, so drivers passing by couldn't really see what was happening in the parking area. At night, the place was almost always pitch black except for the faint glow of distant streetlights. It felt private enough. One cold winter night, it was just me and my best friend Jenna in her car. We had the windows rolled all the way up, the heat on low, and a thick cloud of smoke filling the cabin as we passed a blunt back and forth. Music played softly through the speakers while we talked about everything and nothing, school drama, boys, weekend plans. It was one of those comfortable, easy nights with your best friend. There had been one other car parked far away when we first arrived, but after about 30 minutes, it left. We were completely alone in the lot, which honestly felt nice. No one to bother us, and we assumed anyone else who showed up would be doing the exact same thing we were. Then, without warning, another car slowly rolled into the parking lot. Instead of parking in any of the dozens of empty spots, it pulled right up beside us, driver's side to driver's side, way too close. My stomach dropped instantly. "Jenna, this is weird," I said, staring at the car. "Why would they park right next to us when the whole lot is empty? We should probably leave anyway. It's getting late." Before she could even respond, the doors of the other car opened. 2 guys dressed head to toe in black stepped out. No hoodies with logos, no bright jackets, just dark clothing that made them blend into the shadows. Something about the way they moved felt deliberate. "Wrong. Jenna, let's fucking go. We don't know them," I urged, my voice rising. One of them started walking toward Jenna's side. The other came around toward my passenger door. "Jenna, lock the doors. One of them is coming to your side." Jenna has never been fast in her life. She's the type of person who moves in her own calm, almost slow-motion world, even in emergencies. My heart was hammering as I watched the guy on her side reach for the handle. She finally hit the lock button just a split second before he grabbed it. I heard the click right as the other guy tried my door too. Both doors were now locked, but the men were standing right there, inches away. Jenna threw the car into reverse and floored it. The tires screeched against the cold pavement as we backed up fast. Then she shifted and sped out of the lot. I twisted around in my seat, breathing hard, expecting to see their headlights chasing us. They weren't. Both men were still standing exactly where we had left them, side by side in the empty parking lot, just watching us drive away. They didn't run back to their car. They didn't yell. They didn't move. They simply stood there, motionless, staring as our taillights disappeared down the curvy road. We didn't recognize them at all. They weren't anyone from our circle. To this day, I have no idea who they were or what they wanted. Maybe they thought we were other people. Maybe they were looking for trouble. Or maybe their intentions were much darker. All I know is that my gut screamed at me that something was very wrong, and I'm grateful I listened. I never went back to that baseball field again. Not once. Jenna and I eventually drifted apart over the years and are no longer friends. But every now and then I think about that night. How easily things could have gone differently if she had been even 2 seconds slower. How quiet and isolated that lot really was. How no one would have heard anything. It was a harsh reminder that sometimes the most dangerous situations start with something as simple as a car pulling up next to you in the dark. To those 2 men in all black, I don't know what you wanted that night, but I'm thankful we never found out.